Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we are exploring a more critical topic, that's workforce planning. This is where all our previous discussions come together. So in earlier modules we covered the role of HR strategy, job analysis and diversity. So now we are going to look at how organizations plan for their future talent. Workforce planning answers fundamental questions. Do we have the right people? Do we have enough of them? And most importantly, what will we need in the future? So let's begin with that. So the module learning outcomes. By the end of this session, you will be able to do the following things. You'll be able to describe the steps in workforce planning and understand the complete cycle. Second, you'll be able to describe the job analysis process, which consists of how we gather information about jobs. Third, you'll be able to explain the purpose and elements of job descriptions, which is what goes into these documents. And lastly, you'll be able to discuss job design techniques and impacts, which focuses on how we structure work to maximize both productivity and satisfaction. These outcomes build on one another and give you a complete picture of how organizations plan their talent needs. So I'm sure you remember in the first lecture I told you that the entire purpose of HR is to strategically use human resources, human capital to achieve an organization's strategic goals. Workforce planning is one of the fundamentals in doing this. So let's start with the workforce planning process. We have 4 learning objectives within this. We're going to describe the relationship between business strategy and workforce planning, describe how to assess current human resources. It involves understanding what you have now. And third, we're going to discuss how to determine the demand for and supply of labor. This is forecasting future needs. Then we're going to discuss the outcome of workforce planning, what the planning produces. This gives us the complete cycle from strategy to action. So, business strategy and workforce planning. The role of HR is to ensure an organization has the talent to achieve its strategic goals, like I mentioned earlier. This is where workforce planning becomes essential. Workforce planning is a complex research and design problem. It requires a detailed understanding of each role and how it contributes to organizational characteristics. These characteristics determine the organization's success. So workforce planning is generally done in a multi-year horizon. You're planning for the future and not just immediate needs. It is continuous and not linear. It is not a one-time exercise but an ongoing process that evolves with the organization. So for a moment, I want you to think of it like this. If your organization plans to grow, you need to know where that growth will come from and who will lead it. Workforce planning helps you prepare. So, moving on, the workforce planning process. So step 1, strategic planning. You need to align the workforce planning process with the strategic plan. Before you can plan for talent, you need to know where is the organization heading. Then you need to conduct current workforce analysis. Analyze your current resources. Who do you have? What are their skills and how are they performing? Then you need to look at the future workforce requirements. Develop specifications to accomplish strategic objectives. What will you need in the future? Then you're going to conduct a gap analysis. You're going to identify gaps between current and projected workforce needs. Where are the mismatches? Then you're going to move on to action planning. You're going to identify how to close resource gaps with a range of activities. What will you do to address the gaps? Then finally, execution and evaluation. you're going to have to execute through establishing roles, responsibilities, and resources. Evaluate through monitoring progress relative to goals and making adjustments. This is a continuous cycle and not just a one-time event. So, why assess your current human resources? This involves developing a profile of the workforce. This is the foundation of workforce planning. The entire purpose is that it provides the data for the workforce plan using systematic analysis. You cannot plan without this data. A comprehensive analysis of the department staffing and competency gaps. Those refer to deliverables. Now, the primary steps. Firstly, you're going to develop the profile of your current workforce, including staffing and competencies. Secondly, use the results from strategic planning to project future HR needs. So using that data in step 1, you're going to plan and project the needs of HR in the future. Then you're going to perform gap analysis, then develop and prioritize a list of HR risks. This assessment will tell you where you are and where you plan on going. So, assessing current human resources. Personnel assessment involves a systemic approach to gathering information about individuals used to make employment or career-related decisions. So a properly designed assessment is important for 2 reasons. It reduces bias. I'm sure you know from the previous lesson we did workforce diversity. And secondly, it upholds equity and job relevance. An irrelevant assessment undermines both the assessment itself and the broader planning process. If you're measuring the wrong things, your planning will be flawed and it is most likely to fail. The goal is to get accurate, relevant information about your workforce. So, assessing current human resources continued. Now, the 2 key concepts in the assessment are reliability and validity. Reliability, that is the extent to which an assessment tool is consistent or free from random error in measurement. A reliable test gives the same results under the same conditions. So it needs to be consistent. You need to test it prior to actually implementing it over a number of times so that you check its reliability. Now, validity, the extent to which an assessment tool measures what it intended to measure. A valid test actually captures the thing you're trying to assess. So, the assessment tool, you have to ensure it has all of the content for which it is intended to measure. It has a lot to do with content and empirical validity. So now, to develop valid assessments, you need to identify job relevant competencies. Then you're going to design the assessment strategy and identify assessment tools. You need to use these tools properly with awareness of both the benefits and limitations. Reliability without validity is meaningless. You can't consistently measure the wrong thing. That's reliable but invalid. Both are needed for effective assessment. So I'm going to say that again. You can consistently measure the wrong thing. It's reliable, but it's wrong. It's invalid. So both work hand in hand together. They complement one another and are needed for effective assessment. So you can work hard, but you need to work smart. Remember that. Now, moving on to labor supply and demand. The organization's demand for labor is based on a range of macro and micro level factors. Both large economic trends and specific business needs affect how many people you need. At both the industry and individual business level, the consumer controls labor. If demand for product fails, demand for labor fails. Then we move on to internal labor supply. Current employees should be evaluated based on their ability to meet projected future requirements, factoring in training, reskilling, lateral transfers, and promotions. So the tools used in this are replacement charts to track high potential talent, succession planning needs, and Markov analysis to track patterns of employee movement. These tools will help you understand your internal talent pipeline. So, analytics is likely to be an integral part of the workforce planning process. The key opportunities are spotting talent trends and gaps before they become problems, using performance management data to identify underutilized resources, identifying upskilling opportunities, and recognizing leadership training needs. External labor supply. Now, the external supply of labor is a function of economic and qualitative factors, including the availability of housing and transportation, the quality of life and educational options, wages and competition for labor, demographic and immigration trends, individual preferences, and job structure. All of these factors affect whether you can find the talent you need. Right. So now moving on, the workforce planning outcomes. The outcome of the workforce planning process is a workforce development plan that translates HR analysis into action. So here's an example of the Diablo Valley College's workforce development plan. The vision statement, which is a projection of what the future would look like if programs were completely successful. Then you have the mission statement, which is how the organization proposes to reach the envisioned future, followed by the guiding principles. This is the criteria for making decisions about strategies that support the goals. The goals, what the plan intends to work towards in the next 5 years. Then lastly, the implementation grid. The long-term outcome strategies and anticipated intermediate outcomes. The structure provides a clear roadmap for action. So, putting in everything we discussed, I'm going to test your understanding by you answering this question. Which of the following is the first of the primary steps for compiling and analyzing human resources data? I'm going to give you a few seconds, think about it, and I'll tell you the answer. The correct answer is C. Develop a profile of your current workforce to include both staffing and competencies. You need to understand where you are before you can plan where you are going. The profile comes first, then you project future needs, then you perform gap analysis, and finally, you develop and prioritize risks. A, B, and D all come after the initial profile, which is answer C. Now let's move on to job analysis. This is the systemic process of understanding what jobs actually involve. The 4 learning objectives describe the purpose of job analysis, which is why we do it. Second, identify the steps in the job analysis process. That is how it's done. Third, identify sources of information for job analysis. This is where we get data. Then fourth, describe the job analysis process in detail. Job analysis is fundamental to everything HR does. Now, purpose of job analysis. It is to establish what a job entails, including the knowledge, skills, abilities, duties, responsibilities, and working conditions. It serves 4 primary purposes. Establish and document job-related competencies. So, this involves understanding what does someone need to know and be able to do. Then you're going to identify job relatedness of essential tasks and competencies. Are these tasks truly necessary for the job? Ask yourself that question. Thirdly, we're going to establish the legal basis for assessment and selection procedures. So, can you defend your hiring decisions? Whatever you implement, it has to be completely legally friendly and it needs regulatory compliance. So then, lastly, you establish the basis for determining relative worth. How does this job compare to others in terms of compensation? Job analysis is a fundamental resource for HR. It supports everything from hiring to training to compensation. Now, what is job analysis? Job analysis has specific job steps for gathering, documenting, and analyzing information about the job. So step 1, establish the organizational relevance of the specific role. You need to identify how the job relates to the organization's strategy. Why does this job matter? Step 2, benchmark positions if necessary. If it's impractical to analyze every single role, jobs can be grouped into categories that have similar characteristics. Then you're going to identify inputs. Determine what data sources will be used and how information will be collected. Then you're going to draft the job description. The formats vary, but they are common and require elements. Then you're going to finalize the job description, review the draft with the job supervisor, and make revisions as appropriate. So the process ensures that you get accurate, useful information. So now the sources of information. You have internal sources. This is published information within the organization, input from management and employees, subject matter experts, and job incumbent logs of daily activities. Now, something very interesting is the ONET online database. It is updated regularly and contains standardized descriptors on almost 1,000 occupations. It's a valuable external resource. So after this lesson, I want you to have a look at that there, and you're going to see that it's organized into several domains: worker characteristics, requirements, experience requirements, occupational requirements, workforce characteristics, and occupation-specific information. Using these multiple sources will give you a complete picture. So what I want you to do after today's lesson is I want you to go on this website and assess those domains and create a job profile for a specific occupation. I want you to do that there, as it will help you understand this concept better. So now we're going to move on to completing job analysis. I want you to remember that job analysis is not an evaluation of the person currently performing the job, it's about the job itself. So collecting data involves gathering information from published sources, observation, interviews, and online databases. Then developing tasks, developing a description of daily activities required to perform the job. Developing competencies, describing the knowledge, skills, abilities, behaviors, and other characteristics required for job performance. Validating and rating tasks and competencies. Subject matter experts review and rate tasks and competencies. Then finally, you're going to finalize tasks and competencies, which is the finalization of the tasks and competencies. So the OPM recommends that tasks rated as both frequent and important should be considered critical for the job. This will help you identify what truly matters. Now, let's look at our question 2. This is a very easy one, but conducting a job analysis includes which of the following processes? The correct answer is C, developing competencies. Job analysis involves understanding what a job requires, including the competencies needing to perform it. Now, why are the others incorrect? So A is it's incorrect because hiring is a separate process. B is incorrect because creating jobs is job design. And D is incorrect because job analysis is about the job and not evaluating the person in it. So now let's move on to job descriptions. We're going to look at the documents that come out of job analysis. We have 2 learning objectives. You're going to be able to identify the elements of a job description and differentiate among job analysis, job descriptions, and job specifications. Understanding the distinctions is important for using these documents correctly. So, understanding job descriptions. What is a job description? It is a written statement of what a position entails. It should be incumbent neutral. So, about the job, not the person currently doing it. The job title, that is the title and other reference information. Reporting relationships, identification of the department, who the role reports to, and any supervisory responsibilities. Then you have the job summary. This is a brief overview including purpose, level, and scope of responsibility. Then it's followed by the job specifications. These are the minimum acceptable qualifications, including education, experience, and specialized knowledge or skills. A job analysis is an internal document that serves as the basis for both job descriptions and specifications. The key distinction is that job description details are not personal to any individual, while job specifications reflect what's required to complete the job and are personalized to the ideal candidate. Now, job analysis versus job descriptions versus job specifications. Let's clarify the differences. So, job analysis. It is the process of gathering information about a job. It is the research phase. Then job description. It is the product of that analysis. It describes the job's duties, responsibilities, and conditions. It's about the job itself. Then we have job specifications. It is also a product of the job analysis, and it describes the qualifications needed to perform the job. It is about the person. So think about it this way. Job analysis is the research, job description describes what the job is, and job specification describes who should fill it. All 3 of these are connected, but they serve different purposes. So, job design. We're moving from analyzing jobs now to designing them. This is about structuring work to maximize both productivity and employee satisfaction. We're going to have 2 objectives, learning objectives. First, we're going to discuss the concept of job design, what it means. Then we're going to discuss job design theories and characteristics. This involves how we think about designing jobs. So job design is about creating work that people find meaningful and engaging. So, job design is a work arrangement aimed at reducing or overcoming job dissatisfaction and employee alienation arising from repetitive and mechanistic tasks. Factors of job design include what tasks are done, how they are done, how many tasks are done, and in what order are they done. The primary purpose is to increase employee motivation, productivity, and satisfaction. In addition to motivation factors, job design for safety takes into account factors like task machine pacing and work breaks to reduce risk. So I want you to always remember that good job design benefits both the organization and the employee. So now we have the theories. You have job relevance, enlargement, and enrichment. So, when it comes to job relevance, to avoid turnover and engagement issues, job significance and relevance should be designed at every level and length of the tenure. People need to see how their work matters. You need to show them why they matter, why they are important, why you value them. Then you have job enlargement. This expands the number of tasks one person is responsible for. It needs to be coupled with training to develop competency in performing additional tasks. It creates job satisfaction. Now, enlargement is about giving them more responsibilities and tasks. Now, that works hand in hand with what we're going to discuss now, which is job enrichment. The addition of different tasks associated with a job provides greater involvement and interaction with that job. It should use the full ability of the employee and provide sufficient challenge. So, apart from giving them new tasks, you have to make that meaningful, and you're going to have to make that meaningful by keeping them engaged and interactive with the job. So that is how they feel valued. The work they do has to fulfill a significant purpose for them. These theories recognize that people want more from work than just a paycheck. So, job characteristics theory. Organizational psychologists like Hackman and Oldham developed a job design model based on 5 characteristics. Skill variety. The degree to which a job requires a variety of different activities in carrying out work. Task identity. The degree to which the job requires completion of a whole, identifiable piece of work. Then you have task significance, the degree to which the job has a substantial impact on the lives of other people. Then you move on to autonomy, which is the degree to which the job provides substantial freedom, independence, and discretion to the individual. Followed by feedback, the degree to which carrying out the work activities provides the individual with direct and clear information. So now I want you to understand that when a job has these characteristics, employees tend to be more motivated and satisfied. That is why it is so important to factor all of these in. And it makes up one of the most important theories in human resource management as a whole. So now I'm going to move on to a very interesting activity. I want you to apply these concepts practically. Think about your current or previous job or a job you want. Pick one technique of job design that's either relevance, enlargement, or enrichment. I want you to think about these questions. How would you design the job using this technique? What important steps you need to do to identify important tasks, and what job tasks would be included, and how do you connect their purpose to the company's mission? Following that, I want you to understand how does your job design support employee satisfaction and motivation. You need to discuss challenges you experience or would expect in designing a job. So please do that after today's lesson. Now, quick review of everything we did. This is the summary. So, business strategy and workforce planning. It must align with strategy. You can't plan for talent without knowing where the organization is going. Assessing current human resources. It involves developing a profile of the workforce using reliable and valid assessments. Labor supply and demand. Internal supply considers current employees and their potential. External supply considers economic and qualitative factors. The workforce planning outcomes is the result is a workforce development plan with vision, mission, goals, and implementation strategies. The purpose of job analysis, it is to establish what a job entails in terms of duties, responsibilities, and requirements. The steps in job analysis, you need to establish relevance, benchmark positions, identify inputs, draft and finalize the description. Then the sources of information, internal sources and the ONET I mentioned that you should have a look at. They provide valuable data. Elements of the job description, the title, reporting relationships, summary and specifications. Then differentiation. Job analysis is the process, job description is about the job, and job specification is about the person. Job design, structuring work to increase motivation, productivity, and satisfaction. Job design theories, job relevance, enlargement, and enrichment. These concepts form the foundation of effective workforce planning. So, that concludes Module 5, and I'm just going to give you another summary of the key takeaways. The 5 most important factors you're going to remember from today's class is workforce planning, which is the systemic process that aligns talent with strategy. Second, job analysis, the foundation of effective HR. Without this, every factor of the job process, being job information, recruiting, training, compensation, and performance management, will all suffer. Third, job descriptions and specifications are the practical outputs of job analysis. They guide all employment decisions. Then you have 4, job design. It is about creating work that is both productive and satisfying. The best designed jobs benefit both the organization and the employee. Then lastly, job design theories like job enlargement, enrichment, and the characteristics model provide the frameworks for creating better jobs. So moving ahead, I want you to keep all of this information relevant in your knowledge of HR, as we'll be using them later. If there's any questions, please let me know, and thank you for your attention and participation. I'll see you in the next class.